If you or a loved one experience immediate crisis, please dial 988 to access the National Crisis Hotline. If you are in need of more information, support, or want to learn more, you can reach us via email thriveca@coreresponse.org or find us on Instagram at mindyourmind_Cal.
Okay, hi guys. Today we're going to be talking about trauma and its effects. I'm Ripley.
I'm Lillian.
I'm Hannah. How do we define trauma and how does it show up? What do you guys think?
I think it's really difficult to put an exact definition on trauma, as a lot of people may go through it because it is our reaction to events that have happened in our lives or things we've experienced. Yeah,
I think definitely it's very almost subjective in a way. You can't really say, oh, that person has trauma and that person doesn't, because you don't know what they've been through and you aren't in their head experiencing what they're experiencing. So I think it's very important to just be aware of that and respect that everyone has their own kind of personal definition and experience with trauma.
Yeah, I see trauma as an event that affects you now, and it just affects you now.
Yeah, and I think maybe we can talk about a little bit how we feel trauma and PTSD go together.
Yeah. I mean, they're big. There's a difference between them. Most people don't see it, but PTSD is more of a disorder, and trauma is more of something that happens. You can have trauma without having PTSD, but you can have PTSD without trauma.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so difficult for some people to understand what trauma is, because we like to have a neat definition. We like to be this person does have trauma, this person doesn't, or this experience is trauma while this one is not. But I think it's a scale. There may be different severities of trauma, but they're not different importances. They can all be important to someone's life or impact it a lot.
Yeah, all traumas matter the same. They all should be treated the same.
I would say, how do you guys feel that trauma affects your lives? Very either from very minutely or to a large scale, maybe small behaviors or even how people around you respond.
I definitely feel for me, I kind of try to be aware of that and notice and give people the benefit of the doubt almost, because I know that there's the world we live in today is really chaotic and crazy, and everyone has experiences that can give them trauma probably. So I try to just go into things with a mindset of I don't know what's happening to other people and I don't know what they're going through. So it's important to acknowledge that and respect that from other people.
Trauma also, I know, it can be invisible. It's not just visible. So it kind of puts it down. It's not noticeable as much, and people don't notice it that it is, because sometimes it's physical. Sometimes if you're in a situation that triggers your trauma, you can get panic attacks randomly, and you're what? So I do know that it's not always noticeable. You're not always talking to someone. It's not always that.
What is how would it affect a person if someone could see that they have trauma versus someone where they can't see that they have trauma? What do you guys think?
I feel a lot of the times it leads to someone who doesn't have as noticeable of a reaction to trauma not getting support or not getting acknowledged in that way, because people see things oh, if you're crying or if you're having panic attacks, that's a visible thing people can see. But if you're just depressed or you're having insomnia or something that's less noticeable to like a friend or someone you're talking to, they're not gonna like be able to respect that and help you as much in a way, I feel like. So it's hard because it's a very invisible thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, like trauma can be like the invisible effects can be misinterpreted as other diagnoses or different things, like, oh, you're dissociating, eat your food, instead of like, oh, you had a bad trauma event that happened. And yeah, so it's hard.
And like what speaking around how people may interact with trauma, what do you guys think about the way people use language related to trauma, like, oh, I'm triggered by this, or this gave me PTSD, even if they might not have like a disorder that represents that?
I think for me, it gets like frustrating in a way because there are so many people who go undiagnosed or don't get the support they need and like the recognition they need from their trauma, and then there are people who take advantage of it and use it. Like, I've had personal experiences with people who have had like situations that they did need support in, but they've been really manipulative with the way they would ask for support, where it turned into just like whenever I needed support from them, even if I was giving them as much as I could, they wouldn't return it back to me and they'd say, oh, well, because I have PTSD or I have trauma. Like, they just use that against me kind of to like make me feel guilty for asking for help from them too.
I agree. I feel like people normally just like a lot of people do that to manipulate people, and I feel like trauma gives you a reason why to do things, but not an excuse to why you do things. So if you do something bad, you can't be like, I did this because of trauma. You could do this, I did this because I had trauma and I'm sorry, like, and take accountability. And also, yeah, I agree with like that happened to me a lot. Like, oh, I'm triggered, don't do that. Or if like you try to confront them on something they did, they're like, that's not that. You need to own up to what you did and notice your mistakes. And yeah.
Yeah, and personally, I don't want to be the person to like control other people's languages or be like, you can't, like, you're not allowed to do that. But I think people should just be more aware of like what they're spreading with their words.
Yeah, it's really important to like make sure people are educated, especially now that like mental health is a more like open thing, that we're still like aware of how like meaningful saying certain things can be and how serious it is in a lot of ways.
Yeah. The topic of maybe relating trauma to our personal lives, is there any way that trauma is passed through by our relationships, like our families, that can affect us?
I mean, I think for me, I have a lot of like, I don't want to say experience, but I have like, I know that there's a lot of like generational trauma in my family and in my family history. So like, I'm lucky to have parents who are kind of like open to like acknowledging that and helping me like explore that and understand that better. So it's been hard for me to kind of like acknowledge and separate myself from that trauma and be like, obviously that does affect me and does like partly shape who I am, but it's not my problem and it's not like I can't fix it. So I just have to like move on from it and acknowledge it and try to like grow within it, kind of.
Yeah, not gonna lie, like, I get like some parents like have their own traumas and stuff, but I feel like they shouldn't be pushing it onto their kids. I mean, yeah, talking about it, but then pushing their fears of their trauma onto their kids, I feel like that's just kind of, I get it, but it's just, I don't know, it causes a lot of harm in teens when parents like push their fears, especially like specific fears, which I have gotten. What about you guys? Like, have you ever been like pushed like by like fears by your parents from like trauma they had?
I feel like I have, but I don't know. Like, it's not so overt that I really have realized it like to its full extent. Like, there's so many behaviors that I probably do that are related to how my parents act, which is like similar, but I don't know. It's hard to, like, as you said, it's invisible. It's something you can't really fully grasp. And then I would ask, like, do you think how your parents were more open about how they might have affected you, that like did that give you any more like stress on how you view your own mental health, or compared if you maybe never that was never talked about?
I think I'm grateful that they did that because, like I said, it gives me an opportunity to be able to understand why a lot of the like stuff I have is there and like what's going on. And I think my parents are having to like discover that now as adults when they can finally get help and resources that they needed when they were younger. So it's like, obviously I'm grateful to have that now instead of having to do it by myself. But it does like kind of leave me with like, I feel like I have a responsibility to kind of fix it. Like I said, like, so that's what's been very hard for me, is trying to like accept the fact that I can't fix it. But I think I am glad that they kind of like told me what they did.
Yeah. And on some level, generational trauma can also be like related to your DNA and passed down to you, in the way that like physical stress or emotional stress can change how people like live their lives, and eventually that may get passed down to you and you might never know.
Do you guys feel like there's like what are some ways that you guys kind of want to like focus on like moving forward in whatever experiences you've had with trauma, and like how do you kind of like ground yourself to like
This is kind of weird, but I love ice. I love any type of heat stuff. I like to eat sour stuff sometimes that I learned in therapy. Probably just like keep going. I feel like if you have trauma, just keep going, and the event will never be replaced. Like you can't fix that event or situations or anything, but you can fix how you are now, and you'll see how you are in the future, I feel, you know?
I think what you were talking about was really important, that like separating yourself from like what may have happened or things you can't control, because I don't think it's a good way to live if you keep trying to fix everything or trying to like dwell on these experiences that are out of your control.
Yeah, like life is going to keep moving like with or without you, and I feel like to me somehow that's a little bit comforting that like there's a bigger picture, just like in the like everyone's going through something, and it helps me to remember that like I can do stuff by trying to like support my friends and help other people. And it helps me to not just always like focus like on what I'm dealing with.
Yeah. And do you guys think like if you realize that a friend may be having like trauma or struggles with their trauma, is there any way that you feel like you can help them?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like also trauma is also like a personal experience as well. So it depends how close we are. Like I don't want to like be all up in their business if like I don't know them that well. But like if they're a close friend, I would probably like just like be there whenever they needed them. Tell them to always talk to me. And if there's like anything triggering, I will like avoid the topics. Especially I wouldn't like do that for everyone. But if it's a good friend, I would definitely do like whatever I can to keep them sane.
I think just like trying to, like what you said, like make sure you're there for them, and also like try to like, whenever I've had a friend who's struggling, like sometimes I feel like the thing that helps them the most, at least from what I've seen, is to like just do things that feel a little bit normal, like that you've done before that you know they like. Yes. And not just don't make it all about like what they're going through. Like let them feel normal and just have a nice time.
Yeah.
While still like leaving space for their feelings and their situation.
You can like have like a talk before or something, and like make triggering words, like say like different like situations and know like their triggers, but also treat them like how they normally are, not like they're like a prisoner or anything, you know?
Yeah.
I know you said some stuff about generational trauma. Does anyone else know anything more about generational trauma?
I mean, I think it's really hard because like a lot of it is just like inherent. Like you can't even just just not telling your kids what's going on isn't going to actually help them because it's still going to affect them. So I think you have to just like work to kind of heal with yourself, and that that is kind of the only thing you can really do, is just like get yourself in the best position that you can be in, and just try to help them do that too.
Yeah, I think parents shouldn't avoid telling their kids their experience, but a lot of the times the experiences that they tell are like, they're either to teach a lesson to their kids, to be like, oh, I did this and that's what you should do, or I did this and that's what you shouldn't do. But in some ways, maybe they should like lead their kids to draw their own experiences that aren't affected by like the life that was lived before them. And yeah, I don't know. You guys agree?
I agree with like both of you guys that like it's a combination between like you need to work on yourself, because if you don't work on yourself, you're just gonna end up making your kid and you suffer between the past. So if you work on yourself, and they deserve, they need to know, because it's part of your culture or your history. But it's important to work on yourself first before you do anything you regret later.
Yeah, I think it's unfair to like put someone out into the world without helping them understand like kind of themselves a little bit.
Yeah. Do you guys think that parents might tend to overcorrect when it comes to their children?
What do you mean by that? Like
I don't know. You guys don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but like I found that like sometimes parents who's like, you know, like basically will try to like overcorrect from the way that they were raised. You know, some people will be like, oh, you know, my mom never let me have any candy at all, so I'm gonna let my child eat candy all the time as much as they want.
Oh,
Maybe that doesn't really count.
No, I think
that does.
I think that
I
it
think
does.
the point of, I don't know, in our podcast, I feel like the point is like a lot of things tied to trauma.
Yeah, that's trauma related. I feel like parents do that. I've seen some people on TikTok do that, and I'm just like, I see the comments like supporting them, and I'm like, that's not good.
Well,
that's not good.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's not good. I mean, no, don't be sorry. That's not good. Like it's like either black and white. It's like black and white thinking, which is like you either do too much or too little. Like you could either like punish your kid forever, or you let them fly around the world and stuff.
Well, it's also like you're trying to heal like your problems and your issues through your kid, and that doesn't work because they have issues, but those aren't like, you're just giving them other issues and like putting it on them that they have to like want that. Like, I don't know. I think like my parents like have done a pretty good job, I feel like, of not overcorrecting, but there are times when like they'll want to do something for me that their parents didn't do for them, and I'll be like, that's not what I need. That's just not what I need. And they have a really hard time hearing it, because they're like, well, I would have given anything for my parents to want to give this to me, and you're just saying you don't want it. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm glad that you're offering it to me and I appreciate it, but that's not what I need.
My parents do that too. They try to help as much as they can, but sometimes it's not the right situation, or it's too much of what they wanted or what I wanted. But yeah, this is kind of a bit off topic, but some parents, like, I feel like want to live through their children, which I figure like it can like be seen as like, oh my god, they just want to live through their children, but it's because they either like miss something in their childhood that they didn't have. So it's part of trauma too, I feel. It's not just them wanting to live through them, but also that's part of like triggers kids, and it causes kids trauma if like their parent is always on them, or like if their mom is like what you guys were saying about how overcorrecting, like, oh, you have all these opportunities. Yeah. Like it's like, okay, slow down, I don't want that. Or like all these like extracurriculars or curriculars. Yeah. But yeah, all those extra stuff.
Yeah, I've known some people who like have that, and I don't think they realize it, and I don't think their parents realize it, and it like in some way I want to just be like, no, I can tell like you're so stressed, and like there's so much pressure on those kids, and I feel like the parents know they're not doing what they should be doing, but they don't know what else to do because they know that that's what they needed. Yeah. So being a parent's really hard. It's like it's not easy to do that. So I think the key is really just like being able to like hear what other people need and give yourself what you need without like damaging other people.
Yeah, exactly.
So trauma is a very complex topic because it can't be necessarily defined by one thing. And so many of our experiences are linked to trauma that it's even hard to it was hard to narrow it down for this episode. Like, we did kind of go off talking about our parents for a while. But I don't know. Like, trauma is individual. It's not
it's not something that you can necessarily specifically define.
And if you need there's people that you can talk to about your trauma, and no one
Is alone.
yeah, no one is alone, and no individual feeling is too insignificant.
Yeah, and even if you have trauma from the smallest thing, or you think it's the smallest thing, it probably isn't, and you still matter. So
Yeah. And we're gonna link some resources about how to get help with trauma and how to deal with trauma. Thanks for watching this episode. We've been the Youth Advisory Board, Mind Your Mind podcast.
follow us, mind your mind
_ Cal.
On Instagram.
on Instagram.
Yes, on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.